Emily stood frozen as the truth unfolded before her eyes, her pulse racing with disbelief. Sophie's laughter once brought warmth, but now it cut like glass. Emily whispered, "You lied to me, you destroyed everything we had." Sophie turned, her face painted with calm cruelty, and said, "You were blind, Emily. I only did what I had to." Emily's chest tightened with fury, memories of Lily's broken trust flooding back like waves crashing against stone. In that instant, the friendship that once defined her world shattered beyond repair, leaving behind jagged shards of betrayal and loss that pierced her every breath. Emily wandered the empty street, rain soaking her to the bone, her chest aching from the weight of Sophie's betrayal. She whispered, "Everything we shared was a lie." Her voice was drowned by thunder, yet her heart screamed louder. Every step echoed against the wet pavement, a reminder of the trust stolen from her. In the glow of distant streetlights, Emily's reflection in puddles felt foreign, a stranger staring back with hollow eyes. She tightened her coat, the cold night biting her skin, but no chill could match the ice that Sophie had left in her soul. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, clutching Lily's old scarf, the fabric worn and frayed. She whispered, "I should have protected you." Her tears fell silently, staining the fabric with sorrow. Memories of Lily's laughter filled the silence, a cruel reminder of what Sophie's lies had stolen. The walls of the room seemed to close in, her heart sinking into despair. The scarf carried the warmth of love long lost, yet it burned against Emily's skin like guilt made flesh. She bowed her head, vowing that Lily's pain would not be forgotten. Mark found Emily sitting alone beneath the streetlight, her face hidden in shadows. He said softly, "You can't carry this alone." Emily turned away, her jaw set tight, whispering, "She destroyed everything, Mark." He sighed, lowering himself beside her, rain dripping from his coat. His hand hovered uncertainly, as if touch might break her fragile resolve. Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken fears. Mark's eyes glimmered with worry, torn between helping her heal and fearing the path she was choosing. Sophie stood before the mirror, fixing her hair with steady hands, her reflection cold and composed. She whispered, "Shall never see it coming." Her smile was sharp, a mask of charm for the world. Behind her calm exterior, a storm of ambition swirled, every move calculated. She slipped on her bracelet, a silent reminder of Emily's trust now weaponized. Sophie's eyes glittered with dangerous confidence, believing herself untouchable. In the silence of the room, her betrayal grew roots, tightening around Emily's life like a noose waiting to pull. Emily sifted through Sophie's old journals, her hands trembling as the pages revealed cracks in their friendship long before the final blow. The words bled with hidden agendas, each line a dagger twisting deeper. She muttered, "How could I have been so blind?" Thunder rolled outside, echoing her anguish. Every memory now felt poisoned, every smile false, every word rehearsed. The betrayal had not begun last night. It had been growing in the shadows, waiting to strike. Emily's trust had been the soil where Sophie planted her lies, and now only thorns remained to tear at her heart. Daniel found Emily sitting in the library's quiet corner, books scattered like abandoned weapons. He said, "Revenge burns hotter than any fire, but it leaves only ash." Emily clenched her jaw, her eyes narrowing with defiance. She answered, "She took everything from me, Daniel. What else do I have left?" His weathered face softened, carrying the scars of mistakes long past. He whispered, "You still have yourself, and if you lose that, Sophie wins twice." The silence between them pulsed heavy, torn between wisdom and the rage that chained Emily's heart tighter with every breath. Alone in her room, Emily pressed Lily's photograph against her chest, her tears falling freely. She whispered, "I swear I'll make this right for you." The memory of Lily's laughter echoed faintly, cruelly contrasting the silence now. Every detail of Sophie's betrayal stabbed sharper, tying the pain of the past to the present. The room smelled faintly of old flowers, dried petals still clinging in a forgotten vase, symbols of love that once bloomed but withered under lies. Emily's heart pounded with the promise of vengeance, a vow stronger than her grief, forged in sorrow's fire. Victor stood guard outside Sophie's home, rain slicking his leather jacket, his face a mask of loyalty. He muttered, "No one gets near her without going through me." His voice was flat, steady, shaped by fear and duty. Behind him, Sophie's lights glowed warmly, a cruel contrast to his cold resolve. He adjusted his stance, eyes scanning the shadows like a wolf protecting its master. Yet deep inside, unease stirred. Was his loyalty truly earned, or shackled by debts he could never repay? The storm mirrored his conflict, pounding harder with every silent second. Mark paced nervously as Emily's fury grew sharper with every word she spoke. "She deserves to pay, Mark," Emily hissed, her voice breaking with rage. Mark raised his hands, pleading, "You're losing yourself in this. What happens when nothing's left?" Emily's eyes burned with determination, yet her trembling betrayed the storm inside. Mark's chest tightened, fear mixing with loyalty. He wanted to stand beside her, but the path she chose looked darker with every step. The night felt heavier around them, silence thick with danger. Their friendship, once steady, now strained under the weight of betrayal's fire. Emily's breath quickened as she pried open the wooden box, hidden beneath Sophie's desk. Inside, documents lay in neat piles, marked with signatures and false accounts. Her hands shook as she whispered, "This is the proof I needed." Every page burned with betrayal, each word a testimony to Sophie's deception. The evidence was no longer hidden. It screamed in silence, waiting to be heard. Emily's anger crystallized into determination, her heart no longer just broken, but sharpened into a blade of truth. She knew Sophie's lies had finally met their reckoning. Sophie sat elegantly in the cafe, her voice honeyed as she spoke to those gathered around her. "Emily is unstable," she said smoothly, her smile never faltering. The group leaned closer, her charm weaving a net of lies that tightened with every word. She brushed a lock of hair behind her ear, exuding confidence. None saw the venom behind her calm demeanor, only the mask of grace. Each word planted seeds of doubt, painting Emily as the villain. Sophie's betrayal spread like poison, invisible yet deadly, leaving no room for the truth to breathe. Daniel leaned back in his worn chair, the firelight casting shadows across his scarred face. He said softly, "I once walked the same path you're walking now." Emily stared, stunned, as he revealed stories of betrayal that nearly consumed him. His voice cracked with the weight of memory, each word carrying regret. He lifted his sleeve, showing a faint scar, whispering, "Revenge leaves marks deeper than flesh." Emily's chest tightened, torn between fury and wisdom. Daniel's past became her warning, a mirror of the cost waiting if she let hatred become her master. Mark stood at the riverbank, watching Emily pace with restless fury. "This isn't you," he said, his voice breaking. Emily snapped back, "It is now. She made me this." Her fists clenched, her eyes burning with fire. Mark stepped closer, his heart heavy with fear for her. The night air chilled, fog curling off the water as silence thickened. Emily's rage grew louder than his pleas, drowning out the voice of reason. Mark's loyalty was torn, pulled between saving his friend and standing aside as she spiraled into the darkness Sophie had left behind. Victor's footsteps echoed in the empty warehouse as he delivered Sophie's orders with brutal efficiency. A man cowered in the shadows, his pleas silenced by Victor's cold glare. "You chose the wrong side," he muttered, his voice flat as steel. The sound of fists striking walls filled the air, a cruel reminder of Sophie's reach. Outside, rain hammered the roof, masking the violence within. Victor's heart was steady, his actions mechanical, loyalty outweighing morality. Yet, deep inside, a whisper of doubt stirred, faint but insistent, reminding him that Sophie's control came at a heavy price. Emily stood before the mirror, her reflection no longer fragile but hardened by rage. She whispered, "I won't be the victim anymore." The light in her eyes was sharp, fueled by betrayal's fire. The timid woman Sophie once knew was gone, replaced by someone willing to fight. Her breath came steady, her jaw set firm as though carved from stone. The shadows in the room seemed to retreat from her presence, unable to stand against her resolve. Emily's pain had not vanished, but it had transformed into a weapon forged from the ashes of trust. Sophie sat in her office, her pen scratching across forged contracts, but the calm mask she wore was cracking. Sweat gathered at her temples as she whispered, "She's getting too close." Her hands tightened around the paper until the edges tore. The charm that once carried her through every lie faltered as Emily's shadow drew nearer. Fear, sharp and unwelcome, whispered at the corners of her mind. She looked toward the window, the storm outside mirroring her unraveling control. Her lies, once flawless, were fraying threads barely holding her empire together. Daniel sat in silence, the firelight flickering against his lined face, guilt weighing heavily in his eyes. "I should have stopped it years ago," he muttered. His voice cracked with regret, each word carrying years of unspoken pain. He thought of the choices he made, the lives broken by his silence. Emily's path mirrored his mistakes, a truth that left him shaken. He wanted to reach for her, to shield her from the ruin revenge would bring, but he knew his voice might no longer be enough. His scars were reminders, but they offered little comfort. Mark cornered Emily in the alley, his voice desperate as he shouted, "This isn't you, Emily! Stop before you lose yourself!" She glared, her fists trembling, and snapped, "She took everything, Mark. I can't stop now." His chest tightened, fear gripping him as he realized her heart was slipping further into darkness. The night wrapped them in silence, broken only by his labored breaths. He reached out, but she pulled away, her defiance stronger than his pleas. Their friendship strained under the weight of betrayal, a bond cracking under the pressure of vengeance. Emily held Lily's scarf against her chest, her tears falling silently onto the faded fabric. "I'll make her pay for what she did to you," she whispered, her voice breaking. The room felt heavy with memory, every corner echoing with Lily's laughter now twisted by absence. Emily's grief fused with rage, no longer separate but one and the same. The scarf once brought comfort, now it ignited fire in her veins. She vowed Sophie would feel the weight of every wound she left behind, every tear that never should have fallen. Emily's sorrow had become her strength. Emily's world stopped as she uncovered the final document buried deep in Sophie's files. It wasn't just betrayal, it was orchestrated destruction. Lily's downfall had been Sophie's design all along. Emily whispered, she planned everything, even Lily's ruin. The weight of the truth crushed her chest, every breath heavier than the last. This was no careless mistake, no spur-of-the-moment betrayal. Sophie had plotted, manipulated, and destroyed with precision. Emily's grief transformed into something darker, sharper, an oath. The truth was her weapon now, and Sophie's empire would crumble beneath it. Emily stared at old photographs of her and Sophie, her chest aching with betrayal. Every smile now looked poisoned, every shared memory false. She whispered, "Was any of it real?" Pictures burned in her hands, heavy with lies. She saw Sophie's arm wrapped around her shoulders, laughter frozen in time, a friendship now revealed as an illusion. The memories she cherished most were crafted by someone who had already chosen her destruction. Emily's soul screamed with rage, yet beneath it was a hollow grief too deep to heal. The past had shattered in her hands. Sophie stood in the boardroom, her voice dripping with authority as she addressed her allies. "Emily is dangerous, and she must be stopped," she declared, her calm demeanor cracking slightly. Her eyes glimmered with unease, the mask slipping. For the first time, doubt crawled into her tone, the certainty that once defined her beginning to fracture. She gripped the table tightly, her nails digging into the polished wood. Her allies nodded, but their eyes betrayed suspicion. Sophie's empire of lies trembled as cracks spread beneath her feet, threatening to swallow her pride whole. Victor stood in the rain, Sophie's orders ringing in his ears. He had always been her enforcer, the blade in her hand. But now he hesitated, the weight of her lies pressing down on him. He muttered, "How long can I keep doing this?" His fists clenched, torn between loyalty and conscience. The storm raged around him, each drop stinging like guilt. Victor knew the truth. Sophie had gone too far, and he had blood on his hands for her. For the first time, he considered breaking free, even if it meant facing her wrath. Mark rushed into Emily's side, his voice urgent. "You can't do this alone," he said, fear lacing his words. Emily's eyes burned with a fire he'd never seen before. "I don't have a choice, Mark." She destroyed everything. He grabbed her wrist, trembling, torn between pulling her back and standing with her. His heart ached as he realized she was already too deep, too consumed by vengeance. Yet he couldn't abandon her, even if it meant being dragged into the storm. For Emily's battle was his too, and her war was becoming their war. The warehouse echoed with silence as Emily stepped inside, her footsteps sharp against the concrete. Sophie waited, her calm mask cracking with every second. "You should have stayed silent," Sophie hissed. Emily's eyes blazed as she replied, "You took everything from me, and now I'm taking it back." The air between them thickened, heavy with years of betrayal. For the first time, Sophie's confidence faltered, her smile tight and fragile. Emily's fury was no longer a wound, it was a weapon, and tonight it was aimed directly at Sophie. Daniel arrived too late to stop the confrontation, his voice trembling as he shouted, "Emily, don't let her turn you into her!" His words echoed through the cavernous space, desperate to reach her. Emily's jaw clenched, torn between wisdom and rage. Sophie smirked, whispering, "Listen to him or prove you're just like me." Daniel's eyes glistened with sorrow, knowing his own past was repeating in her. His hand shook, reaching out into the darkness, praying she would hear him before vengeance consumed the last piece of her humanity. The moment erupted as Emily lunged forward, her voice a roar. "This ends tonight." Sophie's eyes widened, her calm cracking as she dodged. Papers scattered across the floor, their secrets exposed in the chaos. Sophie shouted, "You'll never defeat me, Emily." Her words rang hollow, betraying fear beneath the surface. Emily's fists trembled with every strike, not just with anger, but with the weight of all the pain Sophie had caused. Their fight was more than physical. It was a storm of betrayal, justice, and the final unraveling of a poisoned friendship. Victor burst in, his boots splashing through puddles on the floor. He froze, torn between Sophie's command and the truth he could no longer ignore. Sophie screamed, "Stop her!" But Victor's eyes flickered with doubt, his fists loosening. "I've done enough damage," he muttered, his voice heavy with conflict. Sophie's rage turned toward him, but Emily's glare met his, a silent plea for him to choose. The silence between them was louder than the storm outside, balanced on the edge of betrayal and redemption. Victor's next breath would decide everything. The fight reached its peak as Emily cornered Sophie, her chest heaving. Sophie spat, "You're just like me, driven by hate." Emily's voice shook with fury and sorrow as she replied, "No, I'm nothing like you." The rain outside roared, thunder cracking like the clash of their souls. Daniel and Mark watched in silence, their breaths caught. Victor lowered his head, unable to meet Sophie's eyes. Emily raised the final piece of evidence in her hand, the proof of every lie. With one final cry, she shattered Sophie's illusion, leaving only truth in its place. The warehouse lay silent after the storm, papers scattered like broken truths across the floor. Emily stood alone, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion. Sophie's lies had been exposed, her power dismantled. The air reeked of betrayal, yet the weight of victory pressed heavily on Emily's shoulders. She whispered, "It's over," though her voice carried no triumph. The shadows that once consumed her seemed lighter, yet the scars burned deep. The fight was done, but the cost would follow her forever. Emily walked through the empty streets at dawn, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The world seemed unchanged, yet inside, everything was different. Mark followed a step behind, his silence heavy with worry. He whispered, "You don't have to carry this alone." Emily didn't answer, her gaze hard. She had chosen to bear the weight, revenge fulfilled yet leaving only hollowness behind. The city's hum slowly returned, indifferent to the battles fought in its shadows. Emily's victory felt like survival, not salvation. Sophie sat in a cold cell, her once polished composure shattered. She whispered, "She thinks she's won," though her voice trembled with defeat. Her eyes stared at the cracked wall, unable to escape the reality she built. The betrayer, once untouchable, was now nothing but a husk of her pride. Her empire was ash, her allies gone, her mask destroyed. For the first time, fear consumed her, no longer hidden behind a smile. Sophie's downfall was not dramatic, it was suffocating silence, a prison forged from her own lies. Emily stood at Lily's grave, the scarf clutched in her hands. She whispered, "I did it, but it doesn't bring you back." Her tears fell silently, soaking into the earth. The cemetery was quiet. The morning sun filtered through trees, casting long shadows. She laid the scarf down gently, her chest heavy with sorrow. The vengeance she carried had been fulfilled, yet it had not healed the wound. Her heart ached with the truth. Closure was not the same as peace. Emily bowed her head, knowing Lily's memory would forever guide her steps. Emily turned away from the grave, her steps slow but steady. She whispered, "The past will never leave me, but I will not be broken." Her words echoed in the silence, a vow that carried into the morning air. The camera lingered on the scarf resting against Lily's name, the wind lifting its edges softly. The screen faded with a single image, hope tangled with grief, strength born of sorrow. The story did not end with victory or defeat, but with a haunting truth. Betrayal leaves scars that never fade, only reshape the soul that survives them.